The Have a Seat podcast presented by Feiger Law. We did talk to the bakery to try to get a 1-year anniversary cake.
Oh.
But it's being...
You just didn't have the designers off?
Well, that's what they said. But I think they just thought, you know what, let's have them earn the cake by doing a couple more years.
Really?
Yeah.
Seems like a year and a half we should be able to get that cake.
You would think so, and it's the perfect day for a cake because we have our first second-time guest.
Right. No, I'm disappointed. You know I like cake.
You love cake. Actually, which food do you love most? Which food could you eat most of? I think the answer is cereal. But I don't know.
Right. Cereal's right up there.
Yeah.
I'm a sweet guy. Take me to a bakery. Give me a good glazed donut. Dang.
How many could you eat? We did it with Scooble in Kansas City. How many glazed donuts?
I mean, I could hold myself to 2 large ones.
2?
If you put like a dozen in front of me.
Yeah.
Remember at the beginning of the year they had them in the press box? They had just boxes and boxes and boxes. I couldn't stop. It's just like, here's one. I cut it in half, take it to the booth, and then eat both halves, and then go back and cut another one in half. I think probably 3 was my minimum.
Okay.
Those
your
days.
minimum was 3.
Yeah.
Because
at some point you're like, come on, stop.
Yeah, you're just eating for sport at that point. But I'm really glad we did get to food as quickly as we did because we asked for people to use the hashtag #DoesDanCare last episode because you do have a wide range of opinions. Sometimes it's 0. Sometimes it's 100 that you care.
Can we stick it to 0 to 10?
Sure,
right.
But I don't think you can keep it to 10 depending on the topic. I think sometimes you just get
so
inflamed.
You need that finer gradation, like 86 versus 92 type of thing?
Maybe, but I was actually thinking more you're like Lewis Black in Inside Out, where it's just like about some
10's
topics.
not going to do it.
10's not going to cut it.
Okay.
So somebody on Twitter asked, hashtag does Dan care? How much does Dan care about ketchup on hot dogs?
Well, that's a 10 because it's wrong. I mean, it's just wrong. You don't put ketchup on a hot dog. You know that, right?
Yeah, I've heard that in Chicago. Yeah,
right?
Growing up there.
No, it's mustard. You can put conies on, obviously, chili, onions, fine, but always mustard. No ketchup.
Never.
It shouldn't be a 10 because I got to reserve that for things that are a little more important.
Like
so
what?
Let's put it at, world peace and things along those lines.
Yeah.
So let's keep it at an 8.
Okay.
All right.
So it's just 2 below world peace.
Well,
ketchup on a hot
fixing
dog.
the world's problems, and
Okay.
there's a lot of things in there that
Sure. We also had somebody ask, do you have a preference? Does Dan care about the type of Coney dog?
No, they're all good.
Okay.
Just chili, right?
Yeah.
There's a place called Yesterdog in Grand Rapids that I used to go to. I mean, just phenomenal. I've been in business for like 50 years. It's just a real simple hot dog and chili. Onions, can't go wrong. So, and of course, Leo's, anywhere around here, Coney's, you can't beat it. There's no one better than the other.
You know what I love most about Does Dan Care?
Yeah.
The genesis of it and the foundation of it, the bedrock of why the game is fun, is because every detail matters to you. You are that type of person. And rightfully
depending on the topic, yeah.
No. No.
Okay.
But I think you and A.J. Hinch really dovetail in that way. And A.J. will say it at one point in this podcast here, and we cover a lot of ground. But he'll say it, like, everything matters.
Yeah.
And funny enough, he, like, leans into the microphone and says, everything matters.
He really did.
He did. But I think that is what makes this team most enjoyable to watch, is because when he makes a choice, I think as narrators of it, and I don't want to speak for every fan, but I think fans are now playing along almost like it's a game at home that you say, it's like an Easter egg in a television show. Why did they put that there? What were they doing with that? How's it going to come up later? Yeah. And I think he's a tactical Easter egg hunter. And that's where you and your opinions are, again, varied, but they come down to details. And I mean that in the most complimentary way. Details matter in everything. And I think we all aspire to live that way.
Yeah, and that's why I think this team, I think you're exactly right. This is why the fans have embraced this team, because we talk about the brand of baseball and all the little things that matter. Well, they've embraced all of those things, and the more we talk with AJ and the more we talk with coaches, the more you realize how many little things can lead to, not just going first to third. What led to that? Well, there's all this work that went into that. The outfield positioning, just talking about Riley Green the other day about that. There's so much detail work that goes into it, but to see it, think of how different it is from just a year ago. And then we saw it at the end of last year, and I would say it's even on a higher level this year. And I think fans love learning, like we do, about the details that matter, that lead to what we're watching.
Yeah, and everything that goes into the game of baseball affects the way they strategize, right? So we'll talk to AJ at one point in the podcast about rule changes and how those rule changes impact his managerial decisions and what he thinks of them initially. But this was even more of a wide-ranging conversation, I think, than we expected going into it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree, and it was a lot of fun.
So let's hear from Tigers manager Andrew J. Hinch.
This is Have a Seat with Jason Benetti and Dan Dickerson, presented by Figer Law.
For the first time on Figer Law Have a Seat, we have a second-time guest, AJ Hinch. Thank you so much. Scale of 10 to 100, how honored are you?
As the first repeat victim, I guess whatever the best score I can give you, I will give you. I feel like I'm going to do this quite often, so I better keep a good rapport with the three of us, or among the three of us.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I can tell it was a prepared statement. Thinking back to last year when we did this, it was very early in the season, and just seeing how much has changed with perception of the Tigers and all this, but you're trying to do all the same things. Take those 365 days or so and tell us how you feel about how this organization has moved forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's always important to, be honest with where you're at. And we're in a place where we have a lot of good things going on in the organization that exceed far beyond like the win-loss record of the organization. Or of the Major League team. I see that over the course of time. So like the last 365 it's probably even unfair to think of it in those terms and go back further. Like this has been being built, for a while now, and now we're starting to see some results based on the effort that was put forward a couple of years ago. And I think, I can't control how we're perceived or how we're looked at or what people say about us. We're sort of in a results business at this level where since we spoke last, our guys have grown up a little bit. They've matured a lot. They've gotten better at the Major League level. We've been in the playoffs. We've had the heartache of the loss at the end of the season. Now we have the opportunity to have expectations on a team, and we're continuing to thrive. And it's a long season. We have a long way to go. But I like the experience level that our players, our coaches, our staff, our organization is starting to feature because of the long road ahead.
It's not always obvious, and it usually doesn't happen. Momentum from the end of one year can carry into the next, but you guys knew that and really addressed it by sending them into the offseason with a to-do list for each one of these guys. How impressed with you how much they embrace that, and then the way they came out into this year, it looks like the same thing, only better.
What is like all these baseball people say, like momentum is as good as your next day's starting pitcher. Like when we finished, Tarek Skubal was the next starting pitcher. So what a way to start the year. And I think he really set a tone in spring, coming off of a successful season in the rotation, in anchoring us being grounded in what we're doing today. Now that makes me so proud because he, among others, are really buying into us worrying about today, try to win a series, try to put together a lot of good weeks in order to build this towards the season. What last year taught us is that we have a long road to get where we're going to get, and it's going to be windy. It's going to, we're going to have an off ramp every now and then. We're going to have to get back up after, big wins and tough losses. And our players did a really good job this offseason of taking feedback and applying it across a 3-month offseason and coming back hungrier than ever to be better. It's not really trying to replicate what was last year's team. It's different. We did return everybody, but we add Tommy Canley, we add Gleyber Torres, we add Alex Cobb, we continue to add to the makeup of this team. But if the work wasn't put in prior to this season, we wouldn't be where we are today.
I remember talking to you in the offseason, asking what you learned out of the pitching chaos of last year, which worked so well. And you said one of the things you said was we value players' strengths more than any other organization I've been in. You called it kind of eye-opening, that experience, and it feels like you're applying it now when position players are getting hurt and your other guys are just stepping up. I always picture you as a guy who values players' strengths. Mm-hmm. What part of it was eye-opening that maybe opened your eyes to, oh, we can also do this?
Well, I think it's being bold enough to empower the player to be themselves. And that comes with a ton of strengths. It also comes with flaws. We're all flawed. The game is going to expose a ton of issues across managers, coaches, players, what have you. So I think what surprised me, or what really encouraged me, was the fact that the players were willing to do anything in order for the team to be good. This organization hadn't had a winning season in a decade. And the players who had worn Tiger uniforms throughout their entire career, guys like Casey Mize and Tarek Skubal and Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, they'd never won. And so when you get the taste of that, and then you go in and put in what I love about this team is the willingness to do whatever it takes for the guy next to him. That's a special culture, which that word's thrown around a ton, but that's a special bond that comes out throughout the rigors of a 162-game season, and I'm continuing to see it over and over again.
Speaking of improvement, heard you on the Doug Glanville, Jason Stark podcast talking about the film room that you have as part of that new clubhouse for the Tigers here at Comerica Park. What is the structure of a film session? We know it's kind of fun, kind of jokey, make sure it's lively. How do you go through that?
Well, part of it is just having an everyday routine. Our sport is built on routine. And I'd rather you have a bad routine than no routine. We got to get into the rigors of the season, and having a structured meeting for our hitters or our relievers, or the starting pitcher and the catcher, is just part of our fabric of our preparation. So those meetings are meant to keep things live, keep things fresh. I mean, I know, every night when we're put on TV or on radio that you feel like that's the event, but the actual preparation before that is really how we get ourselves in a position to play well. The film session can be instrumental in fixing flaws. It can be instrumental in encouraging the positive things. It can be poking fun at guys. It can be a birthday celebration. It can be an awkward photo. It can just something every day to bring a group of players, whether it be position player or pitchers, together before the game. So as it starts out, it's generally a game plan. You want the players to know about the opposing pitcher or the opposing hitters, or what you need to do to win that game. Now what it's turned into is our players, wanting to make the video for the right reasons, wanting to go first to third. We're one of the best teams in baseball going first to third. They want that shown. When we talk about 2-out hitting and shrinking your zone against specific pitchers, how about the 2-2 pitch where you battle off a couple and then you smoke a ball down the left field line? They want that shown. What they don't want shown are mistakes. But we have a good enough environment and a group of guys who are accepting of our banter, whether it's George Lombard putting up a base running blunder, or whether it's Joey Cora talking about maybe the one or two guys he's held up this year when someone's trying to score. It's taken a life of its own as an instrumental development tool.
Are we including pop culture in the clips too? Is there a range, or is it all game tape?
Well, it's mostly all game tape, but what you're part of the meeting too, because your calls are we have audio as well. So I don't want to put any pressure on your calls, but if you have a bad one, we will expose that in that meeting.
I don't want to put any pressure is the biggest lie he's told on this podcast in 2 years.
Just remember, every time you're calling a game, it could be played in a meeting the next day.
Great.
Everything matters, Jason. Everything matters.
Why did you lean in?
I know, because I want you to hear it.
Dude, this isn't an NPR show. It's, I mean, but we hear about the clubhouse, right? We hear about the changes and the upgrades and all that stuff. Like, there's actually practical application to it. Right. So where else do you get that? I guess is what I wonder. Having gotten a tour of it,
Yeah.
Like, how does the sauna help?
I don't know. I have gone into the sauna in full uniform to console a player who is not happy. While
Really?
Yes, and it's hot as you know what. So, I think our facility upgrades can be demonstrated in a lot of different ways. Like, obviously, it's great to have a facility that's useful. I love the fact it's a facility that people look forward to coming to. Like, they come to the ballpark. I can push back the workout rain. I can push back the workout because of travel. And I look up, and the same volume of people are there, but at 12 o'clock, at 1 o'clock, at 2 o'clock. And that is something that you can't buy. That is something that you can't demand. You have to earn that by building a place, facilities, culture, the type of people that we put in that room. Everything matters when you're trying to build a special place.
I'll tell you how the sauna matters, by the way. I've heard so many players be like, the sauna's sick, dude.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, to me, it is part of their rehab and their therapy afterwards. And I'm not sure if it's physical or mental, but they do have a little subcultural of decompress after the game.
Well, Riley, when he hit the 2 home runs in the 9th inning, the first thing he talked about was hitting coaches and the plan they'd given them, but also the fact that they've created this culture that, again, a word that gets thrown around a lot, but it does mean a lot to you guys, where they just have created a cage culture where come down and hang out.
Yeah.
Early in the day, before you're even starting your work. And I think Michael and Keith and Lance, this is exactly what they want, but it makes a big difference in how they talk to each other, how that can lead into something that happens in game because they're communicating better. I mean, it's not a small thing.
Well, it's going to sound sort of hokey a little bit, but all the areas that we have for the players, whether it's the clubhouse, the training room, the new weight room, the theater room, the batting cage, like those are areas where guys do their work. That's their office. That's where they call home for the better part of 10, 12 hours a day. We don't want those places to be a place that have like bad vibes, or we don't want them to have to go there like, oh, the training room is there when you get hurt. No, it's not. It's an area for you to go get therapy. It's an area for you to hang out. It's an area for you to do some work. It's an area that can have banter. Same thing goes for the cage. When do you go to the cage? Oh, he's 0 for 12. He's got to go to the cage. No, we go to the cage routinely every day, and it creates an environment where guys want to go there. They're not going there nothing against dentists. I love dentists. Some of our best friends are dentists. I do. Some of our best friends are dentists in
I would
our family.
accept you're fine with dentists, but you actually love dentists?
No, we have a very close dentist close to our heart and our family. So it's not a place to go to be miserable. And I don't care whether that's the clubhouse, whether that's a cafeteria, whether it's one of these places to do your work. I don't know how you necessarily value it, but when you have it. And when I hear a player go public about a game plan or about a meeting or about an experience, the non-competition experience, that's pretty rewarding.
You've always mentioned that a common thread running through all this is fun. You have to be able to have fun while you're working hard. You have a good sense of humor. You love to laugh. You love to tell stories. Mm-hmm. How important is that is in terms of the day-to-day with these guys? You like to banter.
Don't tell him he has a good sense of humor.
No,
it just encourages him.
But I do, Jason. But you know what I love to find a way to make guys have a good time. Like this is the roller coaster ride of a major league season is unlike anything in any other sport, no other sport plays the volume of games we do, the number of days a week we do in the various cities. And you just have to create some levity at times. Now, trust me, there are times I don't joke or I don't have banter or I don't. There's an on button and an off button. But I think when you can, maybe bring up something from the careers of the coaches that we have, and create a little back and forth on who was faster back in the day. We didn't measure things as much as we do now. Or, we did have, distance and home runs, and we did hit velo, although there's an argument on which radar gun was used back in our day versus nowadays.
Everybody threw 88.
No, everybody's great now. That's Justin Henry Malloy. Everybody's great now. Everybody was really bad back then. But I think those team bonding moments are pretty fun and pretty cool. And, there's mutual respect both ways. Those of us that played back in the day didn't have some of the things that the players have to deal with. And some of the players today probably need to learn that it wasn't easy simply because they threw the ball down and away back in the day.
I have always wondered this, and we get the chance to ask, and we'll see if he answers. What kind of kid were you with that sense of humor that Dan deems to be good, and reasonable minds can disagree? What were you in like middle school?
Like, you mean behavior-wise?
Like class clown?
No,
like what?
No. I was straight and narrow, straight down the middle.
Really?
Like I never broke, never. Maybe that's what my inner kid's coming out of me now. Are you psychoanalyzing me? It feels like you are.
Could be anything, honestly.
I think I was a straight down the middle, do everything as perfectly as I could, nice and tidy, bed made, home for dinner, home for lunch, ate everything in my lunchbox. I tried to be as perfect as I possibly could.
You trade stuff from your lunchbox?
No. It was in there for me. Like it was, if it was in there for others, then my mom would have put it in somebody else's lunchbox. So
what happened?
I grew up. I grew up.
But seriously, when did it hit you that like that's not everything? Truly.
But you know what? I just think you grow up, you learn, you unbutton the top button a little bit, you sort of enjoy the world as you see fit, and a lot of experiences have led to me understanding what my role is on this team with this group of people, be it coaches, be it players. And when I first started managing, I tried to be a character. Like I tried to be what a manager should look like and be like. And I've learned like that doesn't work for me. So I've been myself more and more as I've gotten more experience.
Don't we all do that? Don't players do that for you? Doesn't a young third baseman try to be a character of a left-handed third baseman?
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, what they try to do is they try to be perfect. They want to do what they think you want them to do, as opposed to maybe what's a little bit more natural to them. And I think what bringing it full circle back to this team is my job is to figure out what brings the best out of these guys and push those buttons and keep pushing them until the opportunity runs out for guys. And whether that is some guys need a hug, some guys need a kick in the rear, some night need a text, sometimes they need a meeting in my office. As the manager, my job is to adjust to them more than their job is to adjust to me.
And I know you've talked about it's not necessarily that you slow the game down. It's that belief that they belong here. How do you get them to that? I'm sure you've had all different guys. It takes a lot longer for some to believe. How do you get them there?
Well, you can't give it to them. I mean, you can tell them, "Hey, relax all you want. Right. It's not going to work." You got to keep playing them. You got to keep encouraging them. Try to shield them from a little bit of those landmines that are at this level. But you got to have patience, and patience can be defined in a lot of different ways. Doesn't always mean just roll them out there and let them fail. Sometimes it means having them take a step back. Sometimes you got to send them down, and sometimes you gotta believe before you see. And I think in this job, I get challenged in doing that over and over again because we have this instantaneous reaction to every day. When we lose, it's the end of the world. When we go 0 for 4, we stink. and we got to play again the next day regardless. And if you can eliminate some of the roller coaster by, being that steady presence, all the better.
When did personality types in the world and in clubhouses start to repeat for you?
That's a very deep question. What do you mean by that?
So you navigate the world for long enough, and you start to say, this guy is like this person I had. This guy is a little bit like this, but there's a little less than this. Like when did that matrix, I guess, start to appear for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think over time, when you, in my job or a coaching job, or you end up just reflecting back to those moments, right? Like I've had players throughout my time as a manager come in and open up about their fear or open up about their situation or have a ton of questions. I've been fortunate in this job to be on the biggest of stages in, the World Series or playoff games. And that just brings, more and more sort of case studies to you on how to handle the next version. So like, I've seen, where Riley Green is at his career. I've seen Spencer Torkelson in his career. Tarek Skubal, who now has to deal with the expectation of when he gives up a run, like what's wrong with him? And the fact is absolutely nothing. And maybe my time with Verlander or my time with Cole or my time with Keuchel helps me now navigate this path that Tarek's going to be on moving forward. So I think over, I've been doing this a long time now, and it's so funny when you think back to the players I had in Arizona or players that I had in Houston, you start to really compare notes, along the way.
This is a really young team. Scott gets you the players, but he's very mindful of the person as well as the skills that he's acquiring to make sure, as he said, it's got to fit into that clubhouse. But you're the one who's there every day trying to mold this all together. And I think of a really young team, and you're trying to identify, who are the future leaders of this team? That can obviously take different forms in terms of leadership. How do you kind of bring that out of the guys that you identify, or do you identify and just let it happen organically? Because it is important, you've said, to have those guys in the clubhouse kind of policing themselves, leading each other.
So I believe this about me or my coaches and the staff. Our job is to set the bar high enough for them to chase, right? So our standards, our preparation, our work product, our style of play, our understanding of what it takes to win, like that's our job as coaches, as managers. The players are in charge of their chemistry. They're in charge of anointing this leader that everybody on the outside always wants to know, like, who's the guy. The players will let you know because they're going to listen to who they're going to listen to.
Yeah.
They're going to follow who they're going to follow. They're going to grab experience from whoever they want to. So it's not my responsibility, nor is it my job to anoint, like, Jason's the leader, Dan's the leader. Like, no, they will handle that themselves. If our standards are high enough, if our bar is high enough, they'll follow and they'll figure it out. And it doesn't have to be the best player. It doesn't have to be the highest paid player. It doesn't even have to be an everyday player. It's the player who can demonstrate the most influence. And as long as that alignment is there with our standards, we will have a good operation.
And it's interesting sometimes how that one veteran added, and I always think of Carlos Beltran added to 40-year-old Carlos Beltran added to your 2017 Astros, who can have such a major impact.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the, we in sports, like we look at the quarterback, we look at the shortstop, we look at a starting pitcher, we look at a closer, we look at probably the highest scorer in basketball, like the captain in hockey. Like there are things in sports that will like plant the flag and will stamp like this is the guy. You'd be surprised at how many teams that I've had where it's not that guy. It could be a backup catcher. It could be the energy provider in the bullpen reliever. It could be a platoon guy. It can be it happens organically by the team because the team is going to organically develop itself.
Who's an example of that from your past that people would go, really? That guy on that team?
I mean, it's hard because I think people grab different things from different teams, right? Like there is a toughness certain players. Let me talk about this team. Like Matt Vierling is somebody who is a central for Jake Rogers, a central force on this team. Obviously, Tarek's very influential. Casey Mize, very influential with how he goes, but they're all different reasons. You know, it's not just because like Tarek screams after he strikes guys out, or it's not just because Matt Vierling plays with this toughness and this style of play that he's dirty all the time and flying all over the ballpark. Zach McKinstry has a great influence because he's steady, and he will play any position at any moment. Somebody's going to grab some inspiration from him. Riley Green, obviously the heart and hustle type of player who leaves everything out on the field. Somebody's going to grab from him. So what I love about our team here is we can grab something from each guy, and it's not just look to one person to have a solution on what's next for a team.
When did you start going by AJ?
So, okay, growing up, I was, the only time I was called Andrew, which is my given name, was in church or when I was in trouble. Like the most serious of things.
What's your middle name?
J.
So
J-A-Y. Yeah, so it would be
Andrew J. You come here.
Oh, then I knew. That was my mom. Like I knew that was trouble. And for the formality of church growing up was I was Andrew there. I was always AJ at school and baseball teams. My grandmother on my dad's side started calling me AJ when I was really little. So I had these dual paths where like the kid and the baseball player in me was AJ in good times and Andrew when I needed to straighten up and go clean my room.
Amazing. I love that. Do we have license if you do this podcast a third time to go with Andrew J?
No. No.
A 17th time?
No.
Okay.
No.
Was just checking, just
We'll
for
stick with AJ.
future possibilities.
That's right.
We hear so much in baseball about rule changes, and I think nationally people are always gauging, like, is the game tilting this way? Home runs, like stolen bases, all this stuff. We can talk about that until the cows come home, but I do wonder, when Major League Baseball implements a rule change, what are the first couple steps for a knowledgeable, thoughtful front office and manager to decide how your personnel is going to dive into that change?
So the interesting part of the rule changes over the years that I've been a manager is I've always been interested in them before I want to like hammer them, right? Like I know the 3-batter rule impacts strategy, and I've turned out to love it. And my first instinct was like, it's going to put me in some bad spots. It's going to get the reliever in a bad spot. And but that rule in particular, what do we target now? Scott and Greeny target like platoon neutral relievers, and you see Tommy Kahnle come in and can get lefties out. You see Sean Gunther and Tyler Holton come in and get righties out. You see Will Vest working on his backdoor slider, his changeup, and his front hip. You get Bo Brisky, who is closing out playoff games, having the changeup to get left-handed hitters out. So that type of rule impacts roster decisions, impacts personnel, impacts development in the minor leagues on how guys are going to be used. The other aspects is how do we make the sport better? And so if I have an accepting nature on things that we can't run into the catcher anymore. Like now that was great for me because I hated getting run into and smoked by base runners for no reasons. You can't take the runner out at second. That's fundamentally changed, how we can play second base and shortstop. You don't have the threat of being upended all the time. The clock has then now changed the way we condition our pitchers. And
really?
How we get them ready because they have to pitch faster, and sometimes we go too fast and forget that the clock means the clock. It doesn't mean you need to throw a pitch at the 8 or 9 or 10 second mark. You can have it all the way down to 1. But the game is better how it functions on the field with these changes. Now, the other aspect of the game changing, we hit a ton of the 3 true outcomes, right? Walk, homer, strikeout.
He didn't even want to say strikeout.
I don't love
strikeouts.
I love it. I love it when we punch guys out. I don't love it when we strike out because ball and play is your friend. But the
always will be.
The game changing in strategy, or the game changing in what we're rewarding, what we're paying, I think that's a whole nother conversation, because in our sport, we are slow to change overall. We don't adapt to change well, and we try to normalize everything as if the leadoff hitter is supposed to do the same for 30 teams, and the number of left-handed and right-handed hitters is supposed to be the same, and you're supposed to anoint a closer, and you're supposed to have your starter go 3 times through the order. Like, that's what we want for some reason when we follow this game. But when you take a step back and realize that it's not that way, 30 teams are going to approach it, maybe not 30 different ways, but maybe a few different ways, and, may the best team win over the long journey.
Those changes, and I think of the 3-batter minimum came before, but then the banning of the shift, the limited throws over, the clock, how have they impacted how you manage a game and watch a game? Are they easily the best rule changes you've seen?
Well, I think the clock has really impacted the game in a positive way, for all aspects.
Right.
Whether you are playing it, where the pace of play is just at a level of tolerance, right? There's no more delay the game. There's no more of these long, drawn-out plate appearances. That's tied into the pickoff rule, where you can't just pick off for 5 straight throws to and create a lag in the action. If you're watching the game, and I watch a ton of games when we're not playing, it's just a better product. Like, just being able to keep the pace of play up. That in itself, I think, has been a change for the better for everybody. Strategically, the changes that have happened around the game, it's probably in the eye of the beholder. We happen to have a team built that has platoon neutral relievers. 3-batter rule doesn't really bother me.
Right.
The way the ebbs and flows go with, the 3-batter rule helps our pinch hit strategy, which is how our team is built. And I'm trying to maximize that as much as possible. That's probably a value add for us, to be able to maximize our strengths and not just line our 9 hitters up against their pitchers and them do the opposite and see who wins. So I just haven't seen a rule come across where, after implementation and digesting it, that is grossly taking the game in a bad direction.
Right.
I'm sure someone has, because it's the nature of opinion, but the game's in a pretty good place.
I mean, the games are a half an hour short. I always remember Jim Leland saying, for young managers, things happen fast.
Yeah.
And that was always the thing that he would try to talk to young managers about. So they're obviously happening faster, but you love it.
Yeah, I do, because I think, it feeds to the preparation that needs to happen beforehand. Like, when I have to make decisions in the game, I try to get ahead of these decisions all the time. And so by doing that with a clock, it's just you have to adapt to the rules that are provided.
When you think about this team, selflessness is one of the first words that pops into my mind dating back to last year. You mentioned on the Starkville podcast that Javi Baez wanted you to lead him by saying, which of these 2 days in Anaheim am I getting off? Like, you think people want to be led. How much do you think people in sports right now, in a social media era, want to be selfless? Or is it something that's got to be trained?
I think it's in the DNA of our guys. So I don't even know if it can be trained, like, holistically, but it can sort of be brought out in the best version of a lot of people. We are fortunate that we have a collection of players that we have continually to hammer these guys to believe in the guy next to you and to believe in their strength. And so when we make moves, it's not about the player that's coming off the field, it's about the player coming on the field. And sometimes that's not always visually apparent, to fans or to people that casually follow. But we are trying to do our best. And when you see it work, when you see Andy Ibanez come off and get a base hit against Josh Hader, or when you see Kerry Carpenter, who's been sitting over there and everybody in the building can't wait for him to get up, and then he walks up those steps and goes to the on-deck circle with guys on base against a right-handed pitcher, like, that's the moment that we've been training for. So it's not about the guy coming off the field, it's about the guy going on the field. That is in our DNA on this team. And I don't think you can say that about every single team across the league. And so that's why I'm always fast to credit the player buy-in. as the reason why we can do what we do, while we develop Kerry hitting lefties better or Andy hitting righties better, or as we break in a player coming up from the minor leagues in a certain way. But you got to demonstrate it, and you got to be consistent. If I'm going to take an at-bat away from somebody, I've got to be willing to give that at-bat back when it's a strength of his and putting him back on the field. If I'm going to take a starting pitcher out, but I'm bringing in a beast of a reliever, and that guy looks out there and he sees Will Vest coming in pumping strikes at 96 to 98, or he sees, Brant Herter coming from a funky angle against a left-handed hitter and making him look silly. Like, they need to see it, to feel the benefit of it. And now that we've done this for the better part of a calendar year, we're getting more and more buy-in from the get-go. And that, I can't be more thankful than I am, because I am ecstatic with how we can operate our team.
You said that you wouldn't mind having those 6 or 7 regulars at a position, but the more you do this, I think everybody but Sweeney, Torres, and your catchers have played at least 2 positions, and McKinstry 5, maybe, or 6. Do you kind of like this better?
Well, it's the strength of our team. So I love trying to maximize the strength of our team.
Right.
So like I can't tell you that I would want to do that on every team, because our strength might be really different. There's going to be a time when there are more regular playing time, and it's not always a counter move every time that somebody brings in a specific pitcher, or there's not always the rotating through. Like we're trying to do multiple things at the same time. We're trying to develop guys. We're also trying to win, and we're trying to maximize guys' strengths. Now, for this particular team, I love it, because I have a ton of guys with a ton of strengths, and we can use it the best we can. But it doesn't have to be that way in the sport, and it doesn't even mean that that's the way that I prefer, or that Scott and Greeny prefer. We're just trying to win as many games as we can. Right now, the best way to do it, and the way that's proving the best way to do it for this particular team, is be a little bit more creative than our like traditional minds like to think.
Does it filter down to the minor leagues, though, that now that even this guy, all right, he's a future center fielder, but have him move around a little bit just so he can provide
I would say this about, our young prospects is, do you want to be considered for one position, or do you want to be considered for multiple? So if you are a center fielder playing, well in A-ball, do you only want to come to the big leagues when the opening in center field is there? Like, no, you want to be considered in center, you want to be considered in right, you want to be considered in left. We'll sort out over time what that's going to look like, but I'd want to be considered an outfielder more than I would want to be considered one or the other. Same goes with the infield. Like, you don't really know what's going to be available to you when you are there. I remember, we did that so oftentimes in Houston when we had like all-star caliber players, and Marwin Gonzalez is an example, who was one of my first multi-position guys. We had an all-star at second, an all-star at short, and an all-star at third. Like, where do you want to play? Like, you're not playing at those 3 positions. You go learn left field. He played 7 games in the World Series in left field. He didn't dream of being a left fielder, but I'm pretty sure he's glad he played in the World Series in left field. So I would try to open up as many doors as possible, and then sort out the everyday status of, like, this guy's my left fielder, this guy's my right fielder. Cool. Over time, that can happen if you perform. But for the time being, I would learn multiple positions.
You've mentioned a couple times, Dan, in questions, and you've mentioned your relationship with Scott Harris, Jeff Greenberg, and that whole group talking after games. We did an event where we discussed like that relationship. Dan's son, Justin, is an aspiring screenwriter in Hollywood. And if he were going to create a script that involved you 3 as characters, and it was just a conversation at the table, what would be the best way to write that to honor the relationship?
It's all about casting. You have to get, I don't know who you would cast or who you would cast for us, but just make sure my cast member is the best. Like, I have to be I need the star so that I can at least have that over Harris and Greeny to like, just to know, like, central casting was way easier for them, than for me.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to my phone here. I know it's very rude to look at your phone when you're in the middle of a podcast, but we did go into the clubhouse and told some of the Well,
We did, yeah, exactly.
we did mention to some of the players and staff members that we were going to have you on the podcast, and they gave us some questions that they would like to ask of you.
Okay.
The first one, you can guess who asked.
Totally
He said-
unsolicited.
yeah, totally unsolicited. He said, please ask AJ, do you want it today?
Riley Green, you got to want it. I say that to him every day. Like, Greeny, you have to want it today. Because it's just our little thing every day to kind of make sure he wakes up. Like, he is a slow morning person. You know, he needs his sleep. He's probably played video games deep into the night. And so day games, I started this on day games. Like, Greeny, you got to want it today. And I run him out there every day. And it, you know, he'll get an occasional day here or there, and but you have to want it.
What does it look like when Riley Green, does he ever ask for a day?
No.
No.
No. And in fact, he'll ask me why when I give him the day off, and I've stopped even really giving him any reason. It's like, I prefer to watch others today, but which is not necessarily true. But but usually if I do give him a day, I may tell him, like, you don't want it today, do you? And he'll be like, I always want it. Yeah.
So, okay, so that's question number one.
Okay.
This is an unnamed staff member who asked, what would you're evidently an avid golfer. What would you sacrifice from baseball to go to the Masters?
To go to the Masters or
Yeah.
play Augusta?
Either way you want to answer it, dealer's choice.
I mean, I wouldn't sacrifice that much. I would. I don't want, like, I would never trade out wins, or I would never trade out, like, I'd never miss a series or miss a game. I did miss a game for my daughter's graduation. I would probably pay too much to actually play Augusta. So if any of your podcast listeners have access to Augusta, look me up.
But
Yeah.
make sure the invite is November or later.
Yeah, no doubt. No, don't ask me to come in June, July, August.
No.
If I'm available at that point, it's gone really south.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. This is the best question I think I've ever seen from anybody when solicited. This is from the bullpen, and it's going to take a second, but please just go on this adventure with your bullpen. The year is 2038. Earth has been decimated by a zombie apocalypse. Naturally, all the relievers survived and have been thriving since the outbreak. AJ, you have a beloved pet owl named Owl Capone. One day, raiders invade our camp and take Owl Capone back to their base as a hostage. You're furious. Owl Capone is more than just a friend, he's also your spirit animal. You can only fit 3 other people in your Prius to go on the rescue mission. Which relievers are you taking and why?
The benefits of having a blowout the day you asked them to come up with a good question.
Awful story.
Do you feel empathy for Owl Capone right now?
I feel like I'm getting set up for an issue in my own clubhouse. But I tell you, I'll describe the players that I would take, and then they can see if they fit based on how I use
Just to
them.
describe
Okay, please.
personalities.
No.
names.
I'm just like
all right.
usefulness. Like, I need a left-handed multi-inning reliever. I need a right-handed multi-inning reliever. And Will Vest. They can sort out. If they don't fit in those categories, then they need to maybe work on some things. But those are the 3 characteristics that I need.
Because those are the guys who have most likely survived this apocalypse the best.
Will definitely survive. Will closed out our first playoff series win in a decade. That was in Houston. That may or may not have been personal to me. So he gets a pretty good seat in the Prius.
Forever.
You know, we've talked a lot about like you motivating players and your staff and players motivating each other and everything. And I don't know. I mean, you said last year you want to wake up on this podcast. You said you want to wake up and just achieve something. You want to do something with your day. Who has been the best in your life at pushing the great buttons that you have? The best version of you, who helps get you there or has helped get you there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously a great question, and you know, I've had a lot of mentors in my life, and it started with my dad growing up, and my dad is no longer with us, and he kind of instilled this do it right or do it again mentality that I have tried to embody like my whole life. And I haven't done everything right. I think that none of us have. And I want to do it again, and I want to do it again, and I want to do it again. And so when I wake up every day, I try to be a little better. And it's like, that's a little hokey. It's a little, but I live by that. The players to me are what drive this job. Like, it is so fun to challenge players to try to figure out the puzzle on how to use them, and seeing them become husbands, and seeing them become fathers, and seeing them become, arbitration eligible, and then make their earnings, and then make them want to win, like, and then watching them win, and then watching them celebrate, like, all of that. I don't know if it's because of my age, or because of my experience, or because of the ups and downs, but that's what makes me me. Like, that's what makes me alive, and what I get out of this job. And so, and it's that way whether you have a good team or a not so good team. But man, it's a lot of fun when you get, to smile together at the end of the night because it goes your way.
It's 24/7 all year long, isn't it? And you love every bit of it.
Every minute of it. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
People have no idea how much is on a manager's plate.
I love it.
But you love it.
Yeah, put more on it, like a podcast.
We're something to pile on your plate. I'm so warm inside.
But I said yes. But I said, he's referenced the Glanville and Stark podcast because I went on that show before I went on this one. So I actually, thinking about that, I probably should have said no to this, just to have a one-up on Benetti.
So I was going to ask a couple more questions, but I think that's pretty much the end of it. I just can't imagine this guy sitting with his hands on his desk and not saying anything in class.
No, just doing my homework, turning it in on time 5 minutes early.
That's what I was doing, listening to the podcast you did before, just so I didn't repeat questions, and I'm getting killed for it. And it hurts.
Keep working, Jason. You're going to be good in one day.
Thanks for the motivation. I feel what you give to those players right now. A.J. Hinch, thank you so much for the time.
Appreciate having me.
Appreciate it.
You got it.